You're listening to the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast, episode 98, with some of the ways your teen might be staying deceptively busy, but disappointingly ineffective. Not to fool you into thinking they're studying when they're not, but where they are inadvertently fooling themselves into thinking they are being productive when in fact they might well be better off just taking a break, or doing something else more fun, or doing what they are in a different, more effective way, so they optimize their return on effort. I'm Katie Jones, and with over 15 years in education as an award-winning high school teacher, international external examiner, and as a study coach, I've helped thousands of students skyrocket their results and confidence. And this podcast is where I share all my insights, tactics, and tips with you, the parent, so you can help your hardworking teen get happy, smart, and successful in their study, and have you both enjoy the journey along the way. This is the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast. Hey there, very important parents and carers. I hope you and your teens are doing really well. First up, I want to say a big thank you to all of you who shared your feedback and stories of what has been the most useful or impactful thing that your teen has learned from the podcast here or from any of my resources or webinars or videos. I know that writing a message or an email does take time and effort. And with the way life is today, we do not need to be voluntarily adding more to our to-do lists. So to all of you who shared and wrote in, thank you so much. It has been really touching to hear some of your stories, and a couple have also made me laugh out loud. But it really does make a huge difference and impact on me to know that what I'm sharing and putting out there really is helping you. So I will now be collating all of your feedback and a few requests that were in there as well over the next 10 days or so, and creating what I hope and I plan to be a super valuable episode 100 of this podcast. Now, I still haven't decided exactly what form that is going to take, exactly what it will be in terms of format or content, but I am very excited for it. And I do consider one of my superpowers to be able to distill lots of stuff, lots of information or lots of content into something that's really clear and usable. So I'm going to do my very best to make it a really special resource. And on to today's episode, and a topic that is very me, because it is very tangible and practical, and because I definitely did a lot of what I'm going to talk about here when I was a student, and I still find myself doing the equivalent of some of this today. I don't think any of us are immune from this completely, and that is falling into the trap of doing busy work rather than productive work. And by that, I mean it's doing things or tasks that have that sort of feel-good factor because we are doing work or doing activity of some sort, but it actually creates not so much an outcome, but more a false sense of security at having done some sort of work, because it's also not work or a task that's actually going to produce any sort of tangible or valuable outcome. It feels productive mentally and maybe even practically, but in terms of outcomes and results, it's not that productive. So here are the top 3 things that I see students doing, and I will say some of which I used to do as well, that keep us feeling busy, but are also keeping us from being productive and actually effective. And number 1 is unnecessary research. Now, the time I see this most is when a student is actually, deep down, uncertain or lacking confidence about the actual task they are trying to research for, like what they actually need to do or how to get started. And so what they do instead is keep doing more and more research about the topic or even about the task in general, rather than actually getting the task done or addressing the issue that's stopping them from getting the task done. So an example might be that they have to write and perform a TED Talk about an issue. And because they don't really know how to write that talk or how to meet the criteria that they're going to be marked against, or maybe they're just nervous about speaking and delivering their talk, they then busy themselves with more and more research about their chosen topic or even about TED Talks. Maybe they're watching lots of different TED Talks on YouTube, thinking that these are going to make everything easier or better when it comes to writing it. Now, of course, yes, they do need the information that they need for that task, but there comes a point where they actually do have enough information and they just now need to get going with the task. But if they don't feel able to get going, even if it's just a little bit of subconscious uncertainty, then that shows there is an issue with understanding the task or maybe the success criteria. That's the actual issue that needs to be solved for. There is not an issue about a lack of information around the topic. So the key here is to identify, are they deep down avoiding the task? And if so, what is causing that? Okay, busy but ineffective activity number 2 is rereading a novel or rewatching the film or a documentary or whatever it is that they are supposed to be writing about, whatever the text is that maybe they have been studying. Maybe it's in history, maybe it's in English, maybe it's something else. And similarly to number 1, this is usually a procrastination tactic rather than a much needed prerequisite to get started on the task. In my experience, if your teen is putting off getting started on, let's say it's their English essay, the thing that is holding them back, that is stopping them from getting started, is not usually a lack of knowledge of the text. It's instead their knowledge or understanding of the question and how to break it down and how to then respond to it. And double whammy, solving the latter there, the responding to it, the real issue or the thing that is uncertain will usually take 1/10 of the time that it would take them to do the former, the rewatching or the rereading of the text because they think they need a better understanding of it. This is sometimes one of the reasons that students are spending so long studying, because they're doing time-consuming things when actually there could be a very fast solution to getting them going with what they need. And following on from that, busy but ineffective activity number 3 is making super neat, ultra beautiful, long pages of notes, whether that is in their exercise books, on paper, or on revision cards. Their notes need to be readable and effective at showing and processing information, but they do not need to be beautifully coloured, shaded, and crafted with that dual font at the top for the heading. Some of you know what I'm talking about. And ultra-precise handwriting, diagrams, and layouts. Now, yes, there is something to be said for taking pride in producing high-quality work. But there's also a lot to be said for judging when that is important, when it counts, and when it actually is better to not be focusing on that. Even better is to get savvy about what high quality really means and represents when it comes to notes. Because what is the point of taking those notes? It is not to produce a piece of beautiful artwork. High quality when it comes to academic notes is not about them being beautiful, visually appealing, or super neat, if there is little comprehension and understanding behind that. So I'm talking about when they're copying out information or diagrams with little actually being done with that information. What high quality actually involves is something that is visually fine, it's readable and logical, but it has actually created understanding. That information has been processed in the act of creating those notes. And therefore, that information will be better retained and is done in a time-efficient way. I would argue those are the measures of high-quality notes. Now, what often comes up here when I discuss this with students is that they say they enjoy it. And that is absolutely fine. All good. We should definitely be spending time on fun things in life as well as study. But the best way to do that is to distinguish these things. So let's say they actually enjoy the activity of calligraphy and producing fancy, pretty writing. All good. But just so they know, that is for fun and is not in any way going to help them academically. And if they would choose to spend their free time doing that, all good. Maybe they want to create a beautiful quotes poster, something like that, rather than a heading for the structure and function of the kidneys. Just saying. Or if they are enjoying the novel and they want to reread it, or they're really into the topic and they just enjoy finding out more for whatever it is they're studying, that's great. They can totally spend their time on those things. I just don't want them to be mixing them up with what's actually required and is going to help them with the study part of it, with their results, with their grades. Don't mistake the fun parts or the enjoyable parts for study. Keep them for enjoyment. And in fact, would they actually choose to do those things for enjoyment if it was not attached to their study and wasn't considered as study? That could be an interesting question to ask them. But just don't let it create that false sense of security of, hey, look at me, I'm studying, look at how many hours I've put in, if it's not time or effort that is actually going to pay off in terms of study or academics. Now, those are just 3 activities that I see students spending time on. There are many, many more examples of what I call productive procrastination. They're not a problem in themselves to be doing them, but they're not contributing to that task or directly to their results. So, like I say, no problem with those activities in themselves. It's just a problem when your teen feels like this is time they have spent studying. Like, I spent 2 hours making palm cards for biology, but actually all that's happened is they've copied out information from pages or worksheet resources or a laptop screen. They've done it without really processing it in their own brain. And because they took time to make every card beautiful, what took them 2 hours could have maybe taken them 45 minutes and been a lot more effective in the outcomes it produces if they had just recorded or recounted all of that information as a table or key bullet points or a mind map or a flowchart and done it clearly but simply with color coding, linkages, and other visuals or writing that truly represent and explain the key concepts, rather than just being what color combos looked aesthetically pleasing on the page. And this is the beauty of the coaching that I do with students, because 1 or 2 pointed questions will so often uncover blind spots that are keeping students stuck but then working doing busy tasks. Instead of your teen spending a whole weekend doing research for an essay, they might actually benefit from hopping onto a group coaching call or getting a 40-minute one-on-one next level coaching session and actually figuring out any uncertainties and getting super clear, super focused, and having a direct, clear path for progress. Because the main reason I wanted to make this particular episode is because so many parents tell me that their teen is studying way too many hours every week. And I would suggest that at least some of that time might be being spent on unnecessary or at least ineffective activities. And the other reason, like I said earlier, is that it creates this false sense of security. It makes us feel like we are working hard and putting in the hours when actually some of those tasks are not cognitively doing very much at all. It's not really making us think or understand or process anything. Because we can copy out a page of notes without understanding anything on that page. We can reread a whole Shakespeare play and be no closer to being able to write the essay. And actually, your teen may well be better off actually just taking a break and having that time out of their study to refresh, to keep their life balanced, do something more enjoyable. Because if it's not really accomplishing anything other than making them feel productive, then honestly, that may well genuinely be the better option if they are then studying effectively and productively at other times. So I'd love for you and your teen to keep a really critical eye out from now on for activities that look like and feel like study, that are most definitely keeping them busy, but may not be the most effective way to be working, and isn't the thing that's actually going to move the needle or produce the outcome that they really want. So here's to a super productive and effective week, not just a busy week. Take care. I'll see you back here next week. Bye. If you're ready to have your teen achieve their best possible results with less stress, then I want to invite you to enroll them in the 10-week Grade Transformation Program, where they're going to learn the key concepts, skills, and strategies to catapult their performance in assessments and exams. It's risk-free. They either achieve bigger and better results with a whole lot more confidence in 10 weeks, or we refund you in full. Just head over to www.rocksolidstudy.com/program, and I'll see you there.